Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a new recording of the complete symphonies and a bunch of preludes and other goodies by, of all people, Max Bruch. And I've been in a Bruchian kind of a mood because I just did a Dave's Faves video of the first violin concerto in the Scottish Fantasy with Kyung Hwa Chung with Kempa, which is fabulous. And the subject of the symphonies came up. And they hadn't been too thrilling for me anyway. I mean, there are not many recordings of them. You've got the Court Mazur on Philips, right? And the James Conlon on EMI. And a couple of different people did them on Naxos. And then there's this one with the Bamberg Symphony conducted by Robert Trevino. And I was interested in this because Trevino's done some excellent work lately on Ondine, with the Basque National Symphony Orchestra. There was that American music collection and then a very good Ravel collection. And so I wanted to hear what he'd do with this stuff. Maybe the heavens would part and enlightenment would dawn. Well, not exactly. They're not bad pieces, though. Bruch apparently intended them as a trilogy. Not that that matters. We don't have to listen to them that way. But what this set does have is the original version of the first symphony, because everyone's into original versions now. It originally had 5 movements. Bruch later took out the second, which is a lovely little intermezzo, and there was no reason to take it out. It's delightful. The first symphony is a good piece. I really think it's a good piece. It's a very German romantic symphony in the style of Schumann and Mendelssohn with a little bit extra thrown in because it's a little later. But it's really a lovely work. As long as you don't have crazy expectations of what you're going to get. There's nothing unpredictable in it, but it's very nice. The second symphony, well, my colleague Victor Carr, in reviewing the Naxos recording of Symphonies 1 and 2, was not too impressed with the second symphony. Neither am I. It's actually the shortest of the 3. It's only about half an hour long, but it's a trudge. It really is. I just think that with Bruch, it really depends on his melodic inspiration, on finding the tunes. He's always very professional in how he sets them and crafts them. But, his sense of timing and his idea of drama, and it really depended on his melodic inspiration. And the second, it's just not there. That's how I feel about it. I find it to be kind of heavy weather, as did Victor Carr on Classics Today, and I totally agree with his assessment. The third, on the other hand, is kind of nature-y. I don't know how else to describe it. It's lyrical, and it's charming, and the tunes are back. What can I tell you? The tunes are really back. The first movement, they're a little long. The first 2 movements are a little long, I suppose. But the scherzo is full of vim and vigor, and the finale is charming, and they're not too long. They're really just right. And I have to say, there's a lot to be said for a symphony that gets better as it goes. I mean, that's certainly an improvement on getting worse as it goes. And then in here you get like all of these choral things. Now Bruch, like I said, was writing these things apparently as a trilogy, but he stopped, as Wagner did, for example, with The Ring. He stopped for a long period because he was doing choral works and operas and things. And so we get, in addition to the 3 symphonies, you get the prelude from his opera Hermione, whatever you want to call it. It's based on A Winter's Tale, I think. Shakespeare's A Winter's Tale. And it's nice. It's really nice. The prelude, the funeral march, and the entr'acte, they're charming pieces. Lovely pieces, and effective and theatrical sounding. They're good. Then you've got the overture from the opera Lorelei and the prelude from the oratorio Odysseus. Now, I saw Odysseus, and it was the dullest thing. Well, of course, Leon Botstein was conducting, so that could have been part of the reason. But still, it was a snooze, just a snooze. And the prelude was just as snoozelicious as the rest of the piece was. Lorelei, I don't get much of a sense of what it's about from this at all. Oh, pardon me. There we go. I really don't. It seems to be pretty innocuous. But Hermione is rather nice. It's definitely rather nice. And all of that comes, you get the first 2 symphonies, and you get the intervening stuff. So this is a chronological sort of history of Bruch for you chronological Bruchsters. And then you get the 3rd symphony. And that makes the whole thing actually a rather appealing program to listen to. It's 2 discs. I would take them one at a time. And perhaps in context, the Second Symphony, I didn't listen to it that way, I should have, but perhaps the Second Symphony is a little bit more appealing when you hear it in its native environment with the rest of the family, as it were. But I think 1 and 3 are definitely worth hearing. And these are lovely performances. You've got the Bamberg Symphony and Trevino, who's a very fine conductor. And I think that, comparing these to Mazur is a little bit, I think, more matter of fact and direct. And Conlon is very good, and Trevino is very good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with any of these performances. This is on CPO, and that means it stands a chance, because it's not a major label, of being available, at least for a while. And I think that if you're interested in the highways and byways of the German symphony, the German Romantic Symphony, you should hear these. You should give them a shot. I guarantee that 1 and 3 will appeal to you. 2 is going to be a question of taste, and the shorter works, well, they're short, so you can take them as they come and decide how they strike you. I was happy to get this. I really was. I think, there should be a slot, not necessarily a large slot, but a slot for your collection of Max Bruch major works. He wrote over 200. He was a very prolific composer, and we know very, very few of them. And he's better than that. He had a very long life, by the way. He lived till 1920. Who knew? And, he's one of those guys who's like Saint-Saëns. He was around forever, even past the point where everybody thought he was dead. But that's just one of those historical anomalies. The music speaks for itself, and it doesn't make any difference what year it comes from, because good music is good music, and there's some really good music in here. I would give it a shot. So thank you for joining me. Keep on listening, and take care.